it's Alexis from Persialoo.com. Today we're going to be making some fun earrings. I love making polymer clay earrings. You can make so many cute styles. And today I'm going to be showing you a fun way that you can use your Cricut, your Silhouette, or another electronic cutting device to add some cool texture and an embossed look to your clay earrings. I am partnering with Sculpey on this video. I'm going to be using their souffle clay, this stuff right here. I love using Sculpey souffle when I make clay earrings because it's super lightweight. And so your finished earrings are really comfortable to wear. They won't be pulling on your ears because I like big earrings. They're fun. So today I'm going to be showing you how you can make an embossing stencil to use with your clay earrings. We're going to be cutting with the Cricut here. You could also make this project with your Silhouette. I'm going to show you two different materials that you can use to make these stencils. It's a simple technique. The cutting machine makes it really easy to make, and a lot of different ways that you can use this technique to make beautiful clay projects. All right, are you guys ready to make some cute earrings? Okay, let's get crafting.
So the first thing that we're going to do for this project is to make our stencil or our embossing plate using our cutting machine. I'm going to cut my first stencil out of a sheet of craft foam. You can download the free cut files for the stencils I'm using over on my website, Persialoo.com.
I have my craft foam on a strong grip mat. I'm going to load it into my machine here. These little rollers here, if you leave them where they are normally, they'll leave little marks on your craft foam, which isn't a huge deal for what we're doing, but just slide them over to the side. The Cricut software will tell you to use a deep cut blade or a deep point blade, I think it's called, but the knife blade cuts so much better. I didn't actually have really any luck cutting foam with the deep point blade, so I've got a knife blade here in the B tool slot there. Then you just need to load the stencil design into the Cricut Design Space software and select the cut settings. This is a slightly thinner craft foam than standard craft foam, so in the Design Space software, I'm just choosing less pressure, and then I'm going to just press the little flashing Cricut button here, and it will cut our stencil.
I want to be really careful not to rip the lines of my stencil as I peel it off. I'm just going to really carefully that's it. You see the pattern there. We're going to make our stencils out of another material as well to kind of show you a couple options. This is one of the clear acetate sheets from Cricut, which is just a thin but sturdy plastic. And we're gonna cut this same material so it won't be flexible like the craft foam, but it'll be a little thinner, and that will give you a different look when you're pressing it into the clay. So with the Cricut acetate sheet, first I just have to remove this protective sheet, and then I'm going to put that just on a standard grip mat, smooth it down, make sure it's adhered well, no bubbles, and then I'm gonna load my mat into my machine. For the acetate stencil, I'm going to change out my knife blade for my fine point blade, and then we're ready to cut. And just like we did with the craft foam, you just want to be careful so that we don't tear the stencil. And there's our acetate stencil. For my earrings, I'm going to be using Sculpey Souffle. It just has a really nice finish and works well for earrings. I've used it for earrings before. I'll drop a link below to that project. So I have just a multi-pack of some different colors here. And then we also have two brand new souffle colors. We have ivory and yellow ochre. I'm gonna start kneading up some of the ivory here to get that nice and warmed up and conditioned. I'm just gonna take half the block. I've got a piece of glass here that I'm gonna roll my clay out on. This is just a piece of glass I took out of a picture frame. The edges can be sharp, so of course be careful with that. All right, so we got our clay here. You wanna make sure that your hands are clean and the surface that you're rolling out on and your rolling pin are all clean to try to keep any little just dirt or lint or things like that from getting into the clay as you're working it. And we're just going to roll it out and try to get a nice, even, smooth little slab of clay here. And now it's time to add the texture using our stencil that we made. So I'm gonna start with the craft foam stencil, and then I'll show you what the acetate one looks like as well a little bit later. But first I'm just going to position the stencil here on my slab and just lightly press it so that it sticks down. Then I'm gonna take my roller and I'm going to evenly press it over the whole slab so that, you know, it's pushed down into the clay. And then we're going to carefully peel back the stencil. So next we need to cut out our earring pieces. I'm just going to be using some circle cutters right now. You could also use a template that you could even cut with your Cricut or your silhouette machine out of cardstock, and then you could cut around that with a craft knife to create all kinds of different shapes. But for now, I'm just gonna use these cutters. So I'm just going to look down through the cutter to position how I want the pattern to line up in my cut piece. Press down into the clay, and then lift straight up, and then repeat for the other cuts. I'm gonna peel off the excess clay from around. Just go ahead and ball that up because we are gonna use it for more earrings. And I have a cookie sheet here with a piece of parchment paper on it. And I'm just going to try to carefully lift my pieces off and place them on my cookie sheet to bake. Next, I've got some of that yellow ochre clay, and I'm going to roll that out so we can try out the acetate stencil. So I'm gonna position my acetate stencil here, and then go back in with my roller. While you have the stencil on, if you wanted to, you could also brush on mica powder at this point, or add a paint. In fact, maybe we'll try putting some paint on half of it. I've got some acrylic craft paint here. Just gonna squeeze a little bit on my tray. And I'm just going to use a little sponge pouncer here. And now I'm just going to peel off my stencil. So I'm ready to cut out some more pieces using my cutters. So I'm gonna cut off the clay that has the paint on it because I don't want to mix that in when I ball it up to reuse. So I'll have this separate, stuff that has the paint on it. Then this I can ball up and reuse. So right here up close you can see the difference between the craft foam stencil, which is on the left here with the ivory pieces, versus the acetate stencil, which is here on the right with the yellow ochre. So it's just a depth, right? The craft foam is thicker, so you're gonna get a deeper imprint, but both give you lots of good texture. I'm just gonna repeat this whole process with some different colors, and I have another stencil that I've created with a different pattern that's kind of like a fan pattern, like a floral almost fan pattern. So we can create lots of different fun designs. And along with your textured pieces, I would recommend cutting some just smooth pieces of the same color because they pair really nicely together in the finished earrings. Really, it kind of emphasizes that texture even more. All right, so I've got my pieces all cut and ready to go bake. The Sculpey Soufflé needs to bake in a 275-degree oven for 30 minutes per 1/4 inch of thickness. So I'm going to go stick this in the oven, and when it's done, we will come back and assemble some earrings. So now it's time to pair up all of our pieces to make our individual pairs of earrings. So I'm just gonna kind of see which pieces I like together. I think that's kind of fun. We could do these. I'll stick with that. All right, so we have our different earring arrangements here, and now we're going to assemble them. Check the backs of your earrings for any little edges that you want to carefully sand off. I recommend not sanding the front because you can tell when you sanded it. So that's why you want to get them as clean as possible before baking, but you can take off sharp edges and things with a little bit of sandpaper after baking. So next I'm gonna use my Dremel tool to drill holes in my pieces to connect them with jump rings. You could also use a drill with a little drill bit attached, or if you don't want to drill holes in the finished pieces, then you just need to poke holes in your pieces before baking. So I've just got a piece of scrap wood here to protect my work surface. I'm just going to place my piece here and then use the Dremel to drill a hole down through the piece. Alright, so I've got a jump ring here, and I'm just going to open it up with my pliers like that. Then I'm going to slide my pieces onto the jump ring. So I got the front of the piece here, so I need to make sure that I put the front of this piece lined up so that it will look like that when it's put together. All right, so I have all my pieces joined together with jump rings, and the last thing that I need to do is glue on the earring posts to the top pieces. So I've got some earring posts here, and I'm going to be using some super glue to glue those on to the backs. So I'm just gonna flip the earrings over. All right, so I'm just gonna add 1 drop of glue and then glue on the post. And once the glue has dried, your earrings are all done and ready to wear. I love the texture that this technique gives the earrings. You can use this same basic technique of creating a texture stencil or embossing plate with any of your clay projects. It doesn't have to be just jewelry. I think you could use the same technique to make a really cool picture frame, for example. There's just a lot of fun things that you could do with it. All right, that is it for today. I hope this video gave you some ideas for how you can use your Cricut, your Silhouette, or other electronic cutting machine to take your clay projects to the next level. Until next time, happy making. Bye.